Hola con todos, muy buenas noches. Hi,
Buenas
everybody.
noches, buenas noches a todos. Buenas noches, Luis. Good morning, Sonil. Welcome to our presentation tonight. Buenas noches a todos, amigos. El día de hoy tenemos una presentación especial. Tenemos como invitado a nuestro gran amigo Swapnil Thakur. El día de hoy nos va a hacer una presentación bien expresa desde India. Estamos muy contentos de recibirlo y nada, Luis, te doy el pase para que presentes a Swapnil.
Thank you, Omar. Well, to all our audience, this webinar is going to will be in English, so it's important that everybody knows that. Well, Somnil Thakur is from India, and right now is day. We can see that. And it's really great to have him right here in Progressio to provide us this important webinar about project management, about the use of Primavera P6. So, Somnil, welcome to Progressio, and please, you can share your screen and talk about this important theme that you have for us.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome, Omar and Luis. Hello, everyone, everybody who's online. Sorry, I don't speak Spanish. The next 1 hour is going to be in English, so please bear with me. I'll just share my screen with you guys.
Yes, please. It's early right now in India. What time is now?
Very early.
Sunil?
It's 9 o'clock in the morning.
9 o'clock in the morning.
People are rushing to work right now as we speak.
Thank you for your time to get up early
No
and
problem.
have this presentation for us.
My pleasure. So anytime when everybody's ready, I can start. Just let me know. I'll wait for your heads up.
Yes. We have right now 12 spectators, and it's increasing. Well, we have some spectators from many countries right now. We have spectators from United States, Chile, Argentina, and of course, Peru. Well, you can start when you want, so Neil, go ahead.
Okay, then we'll start.
Yeah.
Great. A very warm welcome to one and all present. It is a sheer pleasure to be amongst all you brilliant minds. And for this, I would like to extend my gratitude towards Luis and Omar for giving me this opportunity. Before we begin, I would like to share the agenda for the next 1 hour. We will kick off with a brief introduction, followed by an overview of Primavera P6 tool. As we run through the module, we will discuss the advantages the tool has when it comes to managing mega construction projects. We will also touch base with key Primavera terms and also how to create a new project. We will follow it up with a Q&A session, and in case I'm not able to answer all your queries, you can send me an email and I'll be more than happy to respond. So without wasting any time, let the learnings begin. First off, a general introduction. My name is Swapnil Thakur and I hold a bachelor's degree in civil engineering, and also I've done my post-graduation in advanced construction management. I started off my professional journey in the year 2013. I was recruited by Bechtel Corporation, India office, as a project controls engineer. For my first assignment, I worked on a project that our company did for AT&T, American Telegraph and Telecom Company. I was responsible for coordinating the engineering efforts which were being done from the Indian office and the construction which was being done in the United States. I worked on the project for 2 years, and during my tenure, I worked out of the New Delhi office and the Frederick, Maryland, US office. For my next assignment, I was tasked to prepare a P6 engineering and procurement control schedule for a 70 megawatt captive power plant. This plant was based in India, and upon completion of this task, I was asked to join the construction team of the new Muscat International Airport. I joined the crew as a construction planning engineer for the piers section, which is a particular area on the job site. I'll show you in the photographs. After completion of the project, I came back to India and started working as an engineering and procurement planner for an oil and gas plant. It was a petrochemical plant which we did for Shell. Can't share the specifics because of some confidentiality issues. I was associated with Bechtel for 5 years, and in these 5 years, I was given the opportunity to familiarize myself with intricacies of project controls. I was given the opportunity to work on planning, cost, and estimation aspects of a project. During my time with Bechtel, I was extensively involved in scheduling efforts for power jobs, infrastructure jobs, civil jobs, and oil and natural gas jobs. In 2018, I joined KPMG Qatar office as a construction expert to carry out full-blown construction audits for 6 stadiums that were being built for FIFA 2022 Football World Cup. I also did a couple of department audits for QAFAC, which is Qatar Fuel Additives Company, a subset of Qatar Petroleum. I'm going to join the Alliance Manchester Business School class of 2022 and give my career a new direction come this December. This was me and my career in a nutshell. Now we can move on and talk about the star of the evening, Primavera P6 tool. There are some construction images of a project that I've worked on, which I want to share with you guys. The first one is the Al Wakra Stadium. This stadium will host the semi-finals for the FIFA 2022 World Cup. As you can see, this is a photograph from 2018 where the construction was fairly starting. This is the interiors. You can see the gantry cranes which are working on the top. This is how it looks in 2019, and the opening dome that you see on the top over here. The idea is to put a retracting roof. This stadium is going to be air conditioned, and the retracting roof is being purchased from New Zealand. This is the end picture, and this is how it will look after completion. The next one is the Muscat International Airport, which is based in Oman. This is the entire project area. You can see, as I told you, that I was working on a particular section which was called piers. So just to clarify before we start the presentation, because I'm going to make a lot of references to the piers, these 3 areas which have the gate lobbies and the gate lounges, this area is called piers. This one was the North Pier, the South Pier, and the West Pier. This is the main passenger terminal building, the baggage handling area, the taxiway, and this small roof that you see, this is the office spaces. So this, I'm going to make a lot of references. So just to clarify, piers, PTB area, passenger terminal building, taxiways, office space, baggage handling area. This is when the construction was, the superstructure was ready, and we were starting to install the roofing structures. This is the air control tower, and fun fact, this is the tallest building in Oman. This is the interiors. This is how it would look. I think we've started. This is a very recent picture because this area, the duty-free area, has recently started. This was the opening night, the opening ceremony for the new Muscat International Airport. Okay. Enough of the construction sites. We'll start with the Primavera overview. Now, before we begin our discussion regarding Primavera P6 scheduling, it is important that we understand the difference between a plan and a schedule. I will wake up tomorrow and brush my teeth. That's a plan. But I will wake up tomorrow and brush my teeth at 8 o'clock in the morning and finish by 8:05. Now that's a schedule. When we quantify an activity and associate a timeline with it, the plan becomes a schedule. The art of listing out all the activities, defining their timelines, assigning resources, and determining the sequence of work is called scheduling. By the end of this webinar, I hope you get comfortable with the basics of this tool, that you are accustomed to use some key terms and references and some notations, which form the basis of P6 scheduling. The best possible approach would have been to prepare a test project and navigate through the features on the offer. However, I don't have the software on my personal system. Therefore, I've prepared a small presentation that will help you better understand the software. We will first define the objective of the presentation. Why do we even need planning and scheduling? Understanding the essentials of a good schedule, some keywords, some workspace which defines basically the interface and the layout of the home screen. We'll see how to get started with P6. Then we'll follow it up by creating a project. How do we set up a baseline? Key things that you should know about Primavera, some filters, some reports, and resource leveling. Now let's define the objective behind this presentation. The objective of this presentation is to explain how to create a project schedule in P6, how to baseline the schedule, how to update the schedule, and how to produce reports. The first question that should come to our mind instantly when we talk about a P6 schedule is, why do we even need planning? Why put in all the efforts and resources to develop a schedule? Well, we need a schedule to ensure project delivery is within the time and budget. At the end of the day, we are in the construction business to deliver a quality product within the stipulated timelines and also maintain profitability. Why do we need a proper schedule? Well, to build a model to predict which activities and resources are critical to timely completion of the project. This is in line with the critical path analysis, which drives completion date of the project. We need a good schedule to ensure that the progress rates meet what is required for timely completion of the project. A last minute surprise in construction business can put a massive hole in your pocket. So it's always beneficial to review the health of the project on regular intervals. This is where P6 comes into play. Next, we'll discuss a few essentials of a good schedule. A good schedule should cover complete scope of work. An incomplete schedule means unforeseen problems down the road. Therefore, it is a must that the schedule covers the entire scope. A good schedule should explain the execution methodology. A good schedule reflects the execution strategy. By analysis, one can identify the construction sequence and the related execution philosophy. Next, a good schedule should help us identify activities, deliverables, and the logical breakdown of a project, that is the WBS. Now, this term WBS, work breakdown structure, this will come during the course of the presentation. You'll hear this term a lot, so I'll just give you a brief idea. The work breakdown structure comes in handy when you are dealing with a massive construction project. Instead of viewing it as a one single project, what we do is we break down the scope into manageable chunks. For example, during my tenure with Bechtel, when I was associated with the Muscat International Airport, the entire scope was divided into 5 key areas. The passenger terminal building, if you remember from the photographs that we shared, the passenger terminal building, the piers, the taxiway, office area, and baggage handling area. Once we've divided the entire scope into smaller chunks, we can send out different teams. They can commence work on separate work areas and finish the project. This also helps in bringing down the construction time because the work will start working parallelly in different areas. Next is a good schedule should help us identify all interfaces. By identifying all interfaces, we can avoid a clash between 2 or more working crews. For example, let's take an example of a particular machinery that is being employed on the work site, say a forklift. Now, what happens is, imagine that a forklift is required by 2 separate construction crews on the same day, and we only have one forklift. A good schedule should identify this clash in advance and help the construction manager to plan his work accordingly. A good schedule should help in assisting management to think ahead of time to make timely actions and decisions. A number of reports can be generated using P6. The one which I've very extensively used is basically the 4-week look ahead and the 3-month look aheads. We can filter out all the upcoming activities and the ongoing activities. This helps the management to identify if any key critical works are upcoming in the couple of upcoming in near future, and if there is a requirement for additional manpower or resources. Do we need to allocate additional resources to complete the work on time or not? There's an array of reports that can be generated using P6, not just look ahead reports. A good schedule should not have open-ended activities. It is always better to not have open-ended activities when we talk about a P6 schedule. Every activity should have a predecessor, which is the activity before, and a successor activity afterwards. By closing this loop, we ensure that we are not dangling activities. Our critical path calculations will be more accurate if we don't have dangling activities and the schedule does not have open-ended activities and the loop is complete. Next up, a good schedule should not have activity stacking. Once the schedule is prepared, the activities and resources are leveled. This is done in order to maintain a steady flow of resources. Generally, on the construction site, we follow a bell curve. So what we do is we initially bring in the manpower, we ramp up the manpower as we go, we reach to the peak, and as the work gets completed, we'll start demobilizing the people and we form a bell curve for the people and for the resources. This is how usually the planning should be done once the schedule has been updated. Next, good quality of a good schedule is it should minimize the number of constraints. Now, it is always advised that we don't use hard constraints on any activity. By using constraints such as must finish on, we can disrupt the backend calculations of the software. And last quality of a good schedule, it should avoid long lags. Now, idle time has to be brought down to a minimum on a construction site. Every day not worked will cost us money. Most of the heavy machinery used on the job is paid for on hourly basis. We are liable to pay for the idle time, and therefore a schedule should help us in bringing down the idle time by identifying potential work fronts and also manage the subcontractors. Now, most of you will go on and work on construction sites where you will be managing a lot of subcontractors. Now, in order to properly manage those subcontractors, it is a must that your schedule helps you identify the idle machinery and also help you identify potential work fronts so that you can marshal your troops accordingly. Next up, we'll try and understand some key terms as associated with Primavera. The first term that we'll talk about, EPS. This is basically the enterprise project structure. Now, as per the definition, it identifies company-wide projects across various GBUs, which is the global business unit, and enables organizing and management of these projects by subdividing at various levels, can be up to 50. To better understand the philosophy, let's take a look at this diagram. Big EPC companies usually have different business units. For the sake of ease, what I'll do is I'll just give you a brief idea how companies like Fluor, Bechtel, and other Indian companies like L&T, what they've done is they've divided their board members. They have their board members, and what they do is they have different business units which report directly to the board members. For example, in construction industry, a construction company or the CEO and the board members will have petrochemical and oil and gas department, one power department for the power plants, one civil department for the civil constructions like an airport or a stadium, and it might have some mining and metal business unit. So for the sake of discussion, we will assume that this is the oil and gas EPS node. Now the oil and gas will have petrochemical facilities, it will have oil and gas oil refineries, and it will have natural gas refineries. Now, these refineries, for example, we said this was a petrochemical facility. There could be 3 different projects, one being done for ExxonMobil, one being done for Shell, and one being done for Reliance. Now, every project will then have a different work breakdown structure. We'll have a detailed discussion about the work breakdown structure, but I'll just give you a brief idea about the WBS. Every project is a bigger scope, and in order to manage that scope, it is always suggested and it is always helpful to break it down into manageable chunks. These manageable chunks form the WBS. For example, if this is the airport, we had 3 different WBSs: the passenger terminal building, the piers, and the storage areas. Now, every business unit has identified and set up a standard logics for different projects under that particular EPS node. So if we have oil and gas petrochemical facility, all the logics and all the activities, they have been standardized. So what we can do is when we prepare a schedule for Shell, for example, we prepare a schedule for Shell Franklin project, which is a petrochemical facility, we can easily copy the activities from a different project, which was under the same EPS node. So things have been standardized as we've been moving forward because this is like an old industry and most of the construction aspects are very similar. What are the uses? It is used for organizing projects. It helps us manage multiple projects at highest level of organization to individuals that perform tasks. It helps us implementing standard codes and maintain security profiles. The next in discussion is the OBS, the organization breakdown structure. Now, OBS reflects management structure in a project. Let's refer to this diagram for better understanding. Now, this is an organization breakdown structure, which will be basically the structure of hierarchy under a particular project. So when we talk about the EPS considered of a complete business unit, and the organization breakdown structure OBS, it comprises or constitutes only of a particular project. This is what a standard organization breakdown structure or the hierarchy on a particular construction project looks like. We will have a project manager, a construction manager, project controls manager, and quality manager who directly report to the project manager. Then we have the area 1 construction manager. Different areas will have different construction managers, which will have further different engineers working for these construction managers. The project controls engineer who reports to the control project controls manager, but works in tandem and hand in hand with the construction manager, the quality engineers who report to the quality manager, but work with the construction crew, which constitutes of construction manager, project controls manager, and other safety managers and other managers working on the construction site. What is the use? It helps us access and privileges to the WBS project CPS nodes and are assigned through OBS. It basically helps us in managing the work easily because we've broken down the complete scope into shorter durations. Next up, we have the calendars. Now, Primavera allows us the capability of assigning calendars, not just at the project level, but downright to an activity level and all the way up to the global level. So you can add different calendars by activity, or you can assign a particular calendar to the complete scope of the project. When we start preparing a schedule, we can set up a new calendar or use the global calendar from the repository, which identifies working hours and off days. We can use a global calendar from the repository, and if changes are made to that particular calendar, all the schedules which are linked to that global calendar, that particular change will be reflected in all those schedules. Now, for example, if you look at the screenshot, we have a particular project, and what we've done is we have 3 different types of calendars: a global calendar, which is a repository where we have some standard projects; resource calendar, which is used to update the dates and only for the resources. This basically gives us the spread of resources over time, and the project calendars, which are specific to the project. So what we can do is we can add calendars to the project or global. And once we've identified how to add a calendar, we can make the changes to the existing one or add a new one and then assign that particular calendar to the project that we are talking about. Now, by defining the off days and working hours, the system will calculate critical path accordingly and not take into account the non-working days. Now, what happens is, for this particular project, we are trying to set up a new calendar. What we've done over here is we go to the project tab, we add a new calendar. This window pops up. Now it'll ask us for the working hours. So what we can do is we can use this format. Over here, you can see that we've used 9.5 hours from Monday through Thursday. Friday is a 6-hour working day, and Saturday and Sunday 0. So these are the non-working days, and these are the working hours. We've assigned the job hours for a particular date, like from Monday through Thursday 9, and for Friday 6.5 hours. Now, suppose we have an off day on 3rd of March. So what we'll do is we'll just click on 3rd of March, put it as non-work, and the hours will reduce down to 0. So now the total working hours for the month for this particular piece of project and this particular month will be dropped down by 9.5 hours. Next up, we have the WBS. We have already had a brief discussion regarding the WBS, which is the work breakdown structure, breaking down a complete scope into manageable chunks. Now the system will calculate, this reflects the division once you are at the project level. A bigger project divided into smaller chunks to make it more manageable. So what happens is, for example, this is a test project we've prepared. Now what we've done is we've added different work breakdown structures to this complete scope. We have engineering, supply of equipment, erection of equipment, and testing. So the complete scope, which was ranging from 9th January 2015 all the way to March 26th, 2015, we've divided into manageable chunks. Engineering starting from 9th to 20th Feb, and there's a separate crew which will be working on this particular aspect. Supply of equipment ranging from 20th Feb to 12th of March. Similarly, go down to testing 25th of Feb to 26th of March. These are considered as separate projects, but can be rolled up into the testing project, which is the complete. So this is how the work breakdown structure basically works. So if we take an example of international airport or an airport project, you will have an airport project. You will have different areas, which will be the passenger terminal building, which will be further divided into the duty-free area, the waiting lounge. And that's how you can break down the scope. And when you roll it up, it will take you back to the complete scope of the project. Next, we have the relationship types. There are basically 4 types of relationships between 2 activities: finish to start to start, finish to finish, and start to finish. The one that is most commonly and extensively used is the finish to start relationship. This means that the successor activity will only start, the successor activity will only start once the predecessor activity has been completed. The second is start to start, which means that the successor and the predecessor will have a common start date. Then we have finish to finish, which means that the 2 activities are supposed to finish simultaneously. And in the end, the one that is hardly used, start to finish. This is something that I'm yet to come across in my entire scheduling experience. I'm yet to come across this relationship in a schedule. Next up, we'll talk about the lags. Now, as per the definition, lag specifies an offset or a delay between a predecessor and successor activity. To better understand the lag, let's review this particular diagram. We have 2 activities: construct building exterior and structure, and the successor activity, install interior build conveyors. We have a start-to-start relationship between the 2 activities, which means that both the activities will start at the same time. What we've done over here is we've added a lag of 5 days. This means that once this activity has started, after 5 days, the activity B will commence. Now, I'll give you an example, a working example. Okay, so this is the start to start. Now, for example, if we have a finish to start relationship between 2 activities and we add a lag of 5 days, this means that once the predecessor activity has finished, after 5 days only we can start the successor activity. Now, someone would question that why do we even need to do that? Why do we need to add the lag? For example, when you're doing your concreting works or you're installing your foundations, you're setting up a foundation, it takes a setting up time. So before you start commencing the superstructure work and you've already just laid the foundation, you have to add a lag of 5 or 6 days to give it time to set up. Next comes the critical path, total float and free float. This, in my opinion, is the single most important information that the management looks for. Of all the department meetings that I've attended, most of my time has been spent on discussing activities on critical path. Let me give you an example. One of the stadiums that we've shared the pictures, I was auditing that particular project, had the provision of a retracting roof, as I told you earlier. The entire setup was to be procured from New Zealand. Now, the procurement, installation, and the testing and commissioning of the roof, that was on the critical path. The delivery of the roof was missed by a couple of weeks, and the project completion date shifted instantaneously. Now, measures can be taken to bring down things under control, either by pumping in manpower or decreasing the time for installation or by incorporating night shifts. But the point that I'm trying to make over here is that activities on critical path are something higher management is always interested in. Slippage of even a single day should be flagged immediately if the activity is on the critical path. Next up is the total float. As per the definition, it states the amount of time by which an activity can be delayed without affecting project completion. Now, for example, if an activity has a total float of plus 5 days, I can choose to delay that activities start by 5 days and my completion date will still remain the same. However, if I delay that activity by 6 days and I have a total float of only 5 days, my completion date will move by 1 day. In simple terms, the activities which have a total float of 0 days are the activities on critical path. Because there is no room for slippage, a negative total float indicates that the project has already been delayed. Next up is the free float. Free float, on the other hand, is the amount of time by which an activity can be delayed without having an impact on the successor activity. It may or may not have an impact on the completion date. So, for example, if an activity has a free float of 5 days, we can delay the start of that particular activity by 5 days and it will have no impact on the successor activity. But if it has a free float of 5 days and we delay that activity by 6 days, the start of the successor activity will move by 1 day. Next up is data date. Now, data date marks the starting point of a schedule calculation. It acts as a benchmark which is used for all calculations at the back end. When we prepare the schedule, the first draft, all the dates, they become the baseline. These baseline dates are used as reference for calculating delays. For the first draft, the start date is the data date. When we update the schedule in the upcoming months, we use a revised date from the current months that act as the new data date, and all the calculations are now done with that date as reference. Therefore, every month before we update the schedule, we have to roll the data date for the current month. It is usually the first of every month or the first working day of every month. Next, we have with us the project codes. Now, Primavera gives us the option of setting up project codes as per our requirement. A detailed schedule can be developed by coding it at a very basic level. You can take it down to the department level, to the discipline level, anything, any information that you want. You can code your project as per your liking, as per your manager's liking, or as per the contractual obligation. Now, a P6 schedule usually has 10 to 15,000 line items. And this coding helps in tracking, monitoring, and reporting each and every activity. Now that the construction industry is slowly moving towards 4D planning, where P6 is being integrated with SP3D modeling, smart plans, P6 schedule becomes the basis for coding. And that's why the project codes, they are very important, because the project codes from P6, they are integrated in the SP3D model. And that's how the two systems are linked. We have the user-defined fields. Now, Primavera gives us the freedom to modify the templates as per your own requirement. It enables you to add your own custom fields and values to the project database. Now, for example, while I was working on the Muscat International Airport, I was dealing with close to 23 or 24 subcontractors working in my particular, only in my area. When I prepared the schedule, I coded each and every line item with reference to the subcontractor. So every week, when I used to filter out my 1 month look ahead reports, I used to filter it out by subcontractor, give them the reports, and they would have to follow my plan, which I've extracted, filtered out based on my one month look ahead, and limited to that particular subcontractor. Now, this way, I could hand over monthly plans to the subcontractors individually without putting in any extra man hours. Similarly, you can track additional activity data such as delivery dates, purchase order numbers, or resources and cost related data, required on-site data. These can thus be displayed in the activity table, use them for grouping and sorting and filtering data. Navigation.
Sorry, so Neil, I have a question in that previous slide. So that means that perhaps if you want to follow the activity of the subcontractors, they need to access to your schedule on Primavera. So that means that you need to define some profile of each subcontractor in order to change some data of your Primavera, or you manage the data by your own?
No, I'll clarify a little more on the user-defined fields. What happens is the contractor has the main schedule, which will have the information for all the subcontractors. So what I've done is I've used a code where with every activity, I've associated the name of the subcontractor. A subcontractor might have his different schedule at the back end. He might be following it separately. But me as the main contractor, what I will do is I'll filter out all the activities which are upcoming in the next month. That is my first filter. Then I'll go to the column for the subcontractors where I've mentioned the name of the subcontractor for every activity. I'll filter it out by the subcontractor. For example, ABC Constructions is doing my flooring work. What I will do is the first filter that I use is all the activities upcoming for the next 4 weeks. My second filter would be all the activities which are being done by ABC Constructions. So what I'll get is I'll get a 1 month look ahead for ABC Constructions. Similarly, I can apply the filters for other subcontractors, prepare copies, and then send it over to them in Excel format, or I can share it with the planning engineer for that particular subcontract. Does that make sense, Luis?
Yes, perfect. So that means that you create your look ahead from your schedule in Primavera.
Yes.
Wow, that's really great. We usually in Peru, we create a look ahead, but in Excel, and then we try to put more information, but we use our schedule as a master schedule in order to just have in in a general level of the activity. And then in the look ahead, we try to put more detail of each activity. So that's really great that you used Primavera for have a look ahead. That's really great.
You can take any information. For example, if you talk about activities which require special equipment, so you can use a user-defined table where you can add activities. You can add that particular additional item which you require inside. So you can, there are n number of filters. Whatever you want, you can add a filter to it. You can group and sort according to that requirement. Take a print, copy it in Excel, or just take a PDF, extract, and send it over to your subcontractors.
Perfect.
So we'll move on. The next up is navigation. I'll just give you a brief overview, like what happens when you open Primavera and how things roll from one slide to the other as we move forward. Now that we've familiarized ourselves with the importance of the schedule and some key terms, I will quickly run you through the P6 interface. We have only scratched the surface, but I think this should help you in understanding the very basics of Primavera. So once you've given the access by the master admin, you will come across this dialog box when you try to log in. You will be required to log in using your credentials, which are case sensitive. So once you've punched in your password, the system will take you to the welcome dialog box. The system will request you to select a project portfolio. This is the project portfolio. And using this welcome dialog box, you can either choose to create a new project, open an existing project, open the last project which was open on the system before you shut down, and the global data, which has information on all the projects based on the EBS that we discussed earlier. For discussion purpose sake, we'll just assume that we've opened up a project that was previously opened on your system. You will come across this interface. We have a menu bar on the top left corner, a navigation bar on the top right corner, vertical command bar, and a directory switch. Now, these are the operations of Primavera, and this is the most generic layout that you will come across. This has all the activities, and you see this is the WBS that has been broken into. This is a building construction, and the building is then further divided into different. This would be the blue outlet. This would be the total project. It has a building one that is one segregation of the total project, and then it is further divided into structure, roof. These are the different WBSs that we were talking about. Setting up preferences. Now, Primavera offers the user options to modify the layout and other settings as per your convenience. For example, by opting to edit the units of time, I can change the unit of day, duration of working hour. Like you see the calendar that we had set 9.5 hours from Monday to Thursday. I can change it to 8 hours as per my requirement. I can set up anything that I want over here. I can change the hours per year. I can change the hours per month. So this is how I can change my units, which will have an impact on the calculations because the critical path will be calculated with these numbers as reference. Next, we have formatting dates. I can choose the format for dates. This is completely dependent on user preferences. For example, I can have a month, day, year, month, day, or I can have the time that is displayed in a 12-hour clock or a 24-hour clock. These are the separators. So this is again based on totally dependent on user's preference. I can also choose the currency. This thing totally depends on the contractual obligation. A project being done in India would have the Indian rupee. Snapshot was taken for a project that was being done in US. So that's why we have a dollar over here. We can have a pound as per our discretion. There are different currency types which we can choose. And this is again a user preference and depends mainly on the contractual obligation. Layouts. Now, Primavera provides the user with flexibility when it comes to setting up different layouts. It is basically a customizable view. So the layout of the Primavera is divided into two screens, top and bottom. This one is your top layout. This one is your bottom layout. Now on top, you can show different information such as the activity table, Gantt chart, the usage spread, the activity network, And the bottom, you have the activity details, activity table, Gantt charts, usage spreadsheet, resource usage spreadsheet, activity usage profile, resource usage profile, tracing logics. The most common form that is used is activity table on the top with the Gantt chart on the right and the activity details at the bottom, which looks something like this. Activity table, this is the top view, the Gantt chart, and the only information that was missing from there is the resource information, which is called the activity details. This layout is one that represents the activity network diagram. So a project which has different WBSs, and it is just showing you the logics, and it is representing the network diagram, how we are moving from one activity to other. You see the logics, how it is connected. This shows you that the project is, the activities are connected in a finish to start sequence. Once the activity finishes, the next activity will start. We'll see some activities over here. For example, if this activity was connected from this point to this point, this would mean that the activities share the start to start logic. Now this one has the activity table on top, activity table on bottom, and a Gantt chart on the left, on the right, which just gives you the information. These are the basic layouts which we use on construction sites. So these are very common, and it totally depends again on the user's preferences. How does he want to represent his information to the management? The resource usage spreadsheet. Now this particular spreadsheet shows us the spread of resources over time. Now, for example, we have a supervisor. We've already added the hours, how many hours he has under his belt. So over here, you can see that the supervisor has 336 hours for the month of January. But this is only possible if you have more than one supervisor. Now, customizing the activity window. The activity window can be customized and saved as a layout. For example, I can prepare a layout for a 3-week look ahead. I can apply the filters, that is the activity with start date coming up in next 3 months, and all the activities which are ongoing. I can add columns as per my requirement. The discussion that I just had with Lewis, like how we can change the bars, how we can change the columns, and all the information that we have, and customize it as per our needs, and then share it with the contractor or with the client. Now, following items can be customized: the bars, the columns, the time scale, time, font, and color, filters, row height, how we group and sort the project, and the top and bottom layouts. So these were the customizations that were available to us. So we've now done the importance, how we navigate through the tool, and some important key terms. Now I'll just run you through a very quick process to create a project. This might help. This is not the complete information that you would like when you're building a schedule for a massive project, but this will help you prepare a schedule of a smaller quantum. Now, the upcoming slides give an overview regarding how to create a project in Primavera. It is very basic overview, but it'll help you set up small jobs. First step is to define the OBS, organization breakdown structure, which is for the particular project. As discussed earlier, this is the hierarchy at the project level. The next up,
So Neil, sorry, I have a question. Everybody in the project should have access to the schedule in Primavera or not?
What happens is the project controls team, especially the planning team that we have, they have the editing rights on Primavera. The engineering team can have the read-only rights, and this is also on need basis, whoever needs to work on the schedule. So they can be given a read-only access. But usually what I've seen on the construction site is the project controls engineer will take the extracts and send it to the construction team, the engineering team.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. So we were creating a project. So we've defined the OBS, what will be the organization breakdown structure, the project manager, who all people are involved in the project. Once we've defined the OBS, we have to define the EPS. EPS now is the enterprise level node. So we have to identify that where the project falls under which business category, whether it is a petrochemical facility, whether it is a power facility, whether it is a civil facility. Once we define the EPS, we have to assign the project that we are working on to that particular EPS. After selecting the EPS node, you want to fall it under, it will ask you for certain details such as the project information, the project name, and the responsible manager. Once we've done this, we are done with this information, we'll have to add a tentative planned start date and a must finish by date. Must finish by date is actually a bad practice. The system should be able to calculate the finish dates automatically. So when we add, the start and finish date followed by project codes. We also have some defaults like activity type, duration types, which we've not discussed right now. But this information is a little like what we've done today is a very basic and intermittent level of planning and scheduling. So the duration types, the percent complete types, the activity types, this is a little expert level, and I'll share the literature with Louis and he can send it over to you. But right now discussing it in this forum would lead to further confusion in your understanding. Once we've done this, we've added the information. We will create a calendar. We've already discussed, we can either use a global calendar from the system, from the repository, or we can create a separate separate calendar for a project and add it to our, assign that particular calendar to the project. Once the calendar has been created, we will add activities to the schedule. So what we do is usually in bigger companies, we already have a standardized set of activities for a particular kind of a project. Logics are already defined. What we do is we add the list of all the construction activities. Every construction activity that we can think of, we will add it to the activities column. Once the activities have been added, we have to set up a relationship between the activities. As discussed earlier, most of the construction companies have standardized logics for business units, different business units. We then go on to create the WBS, the work breakdown structure. So once we've added all the activities, what we do is we will assign the work breakdown structures and assign all those activities into separate work breakdown structures. This is again used to break down the work into manageable chunks. Next up, we create the project codes. We'll create the project codes and assign project codes to the activities. Now, there are global codes from the repository that can be used, or we can go on to create our own codes and we can assign each an activity that code, which helps us in proper monitoring and filtering out those particular activities. Once everything is done, the last step that we have to do is assign resources. If you look at this diagram, we have an activity floating of tender. And what we've done is we've used a project code, mechanical, and as soon as I click add, this particular resource will be added to this particular activity. And under the details section, it should come like we've clicked on codes. Once I add it, this information will start populating on the bottom information table tab. Like these are all the codes for this particular test project. And for floating of tender, I can add it to the procurement. For the activity code responsibility, it falls under procurement and the discipline would be mechanical. So once I add these two activity codes, it will start populating in this activity details table. Now, once the schedule is ready, we can set up reporting templates and also we can use certain tailor-made reporting templates which have been approved by the management. We can run the reports at our discretion. Now, I was not able to bring up sample reports to share because all the projects are live, which I've been working on, and there are some confidentiality issues regarding the same. What we've covered today is the very basic of planning and scheduling using Primavera. I know this might have been a little confusing if this is the first time anyone is coming across a basic schedule. But once you create a schedule of your own, I promise you that all the time that you put in to learn this tool will be totally justified. With this remark, I rest my case and open the floor for discussions. Thank you everyone for your patience, and thank you for this opportunity. Over to you, Luis.
Perfect. Thanks, Neil. The great presentation. Congratulations. That's a really, we know that Primavera is a great tool for us. It's very important that we need to learn more about that. I'm going to put just right here. Let me think. Just give me a minute. Primavera is usually a common tool right here for big projects, and we know that you know about the use of Primavera. Um, we have a couple of questions, and I am going to put this slide with your profile in order to all the audience can see the experience that you have in important companies. I have a question right here. It's important to charge perhaps or to upload all the resources of the project in Primavera, or is not necessary to upload all the resources? Or do we need to understand what are the incident resources to upload to Primavera? I don't know if you have a methodology about the resources, to perhaps have a list of the resources that you have from your budget. I don't know if you try to put all the resources or just pick the most incident ones.
Luis, this again is based on the user preference. I've worked on the projects where we've added A to Z all the resources for activities. And there have been projects where we've not added resources at all. Now, to give you an example, on the airport job, the schedule update was being done weekly, and I was the only planning engineer. We started off by adding all the activities and all the resources into the schedule. But it became a pain to update the schedule because it was a lot of work if you want to update all the resources on weekly basis. So it was a management decision, and we scrapped out all the resources. This is one project where the resources were uploaded into the schedule, but they were not updated. Now, the oil and gas project that I worked on, we were a team of 11 planning engineers. We had all the resources into the system, and the update was also being done on monthly basis. It was quite manageable. So we had all the resources in the system. We updated all the resources, and every schedule update, we had to take the quantities. For example, we have installation of concrete. So every line item that was there for the installation of concrete for all the areas, we would take the quantity from engineering team, update it. Like for example, the total scope was 100. So we've installed 50 in the last week. So we'd go into the system. Every update, I would change the remaining resources. I've installed 50, the remaining is 50. And the calculations would update themselves. So coming back to your question, it totally depends on the user preference and the situation on the site. You can play around with it.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, it's important to know, for example, the resources. That's part of our budget, so it is
Correct.
important to control them in order to have a good results of the project. So yeah, totally agree. That depends on the user preference. That's obviously. And I have another question. You were talking about the organization breakdown structure. How many people can conform that organization, especially in these two projects, in these two big projects that you will work?
I didn't get the question. How many people?
How many people? How many people were worked
Oh,
in this project from the staff of Bechtel, for example, in this particular project of
we
the.
had actually we were facing a delay on this particular project. We were already delayed by 6 to 7 months. There were some issues that came up in the superstructure. So we at the peak we were close to 4 to 5,000 engineering teams. Like the total staff was close to 15,000 if you include the manual and non-manuals.
Wow, that's a huge
That was
amount.
massive.
Yes, it
So
was massive.
the thing is, we were not the only contractors working on this airport job. There were total of 6 main contractors. We did the superstructure. The runways was being done by, I think it was L&T, and the computer systems was being done by a totally different company. Then we had the air control tower, which was being done by a separate company. So we had 6 different main contractors, which then had further down the line. Now, me alone for the peer section, I had close to 25 subcontractors. So you can imagine the quantum of people, the quantum of companies that were working on the project.
Yeah, yes, it's a
And
huge.
managing those people is for me the toughest challenge, because you have to, most of the times, if they don't follow you don't have a proper schedule, you are more likely to run around like headless chickens. You won't even know which work front is available. There will be a day when 5 subcontractors will show up on one area and they'll say that, okay, we want to work this particular area. That is not possible, which is not feasible. And there would be a separate area altogether somewhere else where no one is working. So managing those subcontractors and those works, this is where Primavera really helps. It really helps you to identify those missing work fronts, which you can, tap and save a lot of money.
Wow, awesome, awesome. Um, I have another question too. And what is the relationship between Primavera and cost management? There was a direct relationship. I know that, for example, Primavera works in the cloud or in a database and have a direct connection with cost management. But did you create control accounts? Did you were involved in cost management as a planner of that project?
Uh, Now, this is a very good question. Uh, Bechtel as an organization, like I've not worked with other companies, but Bechtel as an organization does not use Primavera for cost reporting modules. However, Primavera has the efficiency, it has the potential to be used as the cost reporting module, because once you add your resources, you can add a dollar amount to each and every activity. So once you've actualized something, you can filter out the activities and you can directly bill the client. If the schedule is approved, you can bill the client because the dollar value is there with each and every line item. But for some particular reason, we had a different cost reporting module altogether, which was not linked to Primavera.
Okay, perfect, perfect. Well, we have a question right now in the channel from Oscar Wenceslao Ocampo Paredes. The question is, in these kind of projects so big and complex, do you work all integrated in Primavera P6, or you also use other MRP or ERP like SAP?
For this particular project, we were extensively and solely working on Primavera. But to answer that question, there are some other projects that I've worked on, and there are new tools which are coming up, like Power BI. People are now integrating your P6 schedule with an SP3D model. So things are evolving. But this project was done back in 2017-18. And for this particular project, for this international airport project, and also the stadiums, P6 was the only monitoring tool that we had on site. And this Power BI is basically a reporting tool. So the source for Power BI, the information for Power BI is fed through Primavera.
Yes,
So
yes.
this is the master data. This is the master data which controls everything.
Oh, great, great. Right here in Peru, it's very common to hear about Power BI right now. It is a great tool that we have learning. Yes, we know the advantages that this tool could provide to projects and it's really integrated. It's really easy to use, and it helps a lot. Thank you for your response, and thank you for your question, Oscar. I have another question right here from me. um, the reports of the organization, the reports of the project, do you use templates from Primavera, or do you create your own templates for this kind of projects? Do you create the templates that the Primavera give you as a common tool, or you customized the reports in order to perhaps put some important information of your project?
The answer is both. We have a global repository which will have some standard reports. You can add to that particular repository, you can add n number of reports. You can have the 4-week look ahead, you can have the critical path analysis, you can list out all the major upcoming procurement reports, your construction reports, your startup reports. So it is a combination of both. You can have the standard reports which are already there, and you're more than welcome to go into the system and add your reporting templates and extract reports as per your need.
Great, great. Yes. It let me it helped me to go to another questions in Primavera process. How can you update the project schedule in Primavera? Do you follow all the activities in putting perhaps the real date of the beginning of each activity, and then perhaps you upload the real resources that you are using in each activity to compare these resources with the planned resources? Or what is the procedure that you usually use to update the schedule?
Okay, in order to update the the end user for the schedule is the engineering and the construction team. So what happens is I will not take the complete schedule to the engineering team, which has like 10 to 15,000 activities. What I will do is I will filter out all the ongoing activities, plus I will filter out the activities for the next 1 month. So I have these manageable chunks, like 50, 60 activities which are ongoing. Then I will go to the construction engineer and I'll sit with him. I'll ask him if the planned finish date, what is the plan? Are we going to meet it, or do I need to increase the duration? For example, if he says that the project will not finish tomorrow, this activity will not finish tomorrow, and that was the planned date for us. Like tomorrow we'll finish this work, but he tells me that, okay, I'm not going to finish it tomorrow. I'll finish it day after tomorrow. So I have to go back to the system. I have to change my planned date. Like my planned date is the same, but my expected finish date now has moved from today to tomorrow. But if he tells me that, okay, I've already done this work, I'll just go and actualize the activity and it will be 100% complete. So when you update the schedule, you will actualize all the activities that have been completed, and you will delay the activities which have not been completed due to some unforeseen circumstances.
Okay, perfect. There is very common to use, for example, the earned value management methodology that the PMI suggests for control the project. Do you use that methodology in these kind of projects, in these big projects?
Can you please tell me the name again? Which methodology?
Earned value management.
Earned value management. Yeah, EVMS. Yes. This is the basis for scheduling your earned value management system. You'll like earned value. For example, there is 100% weightage to a particular activity, and that is one of the things that I told you, that this is not the intermediate level. We've done only the basic and the intermediate level. The expert level, when we talk about the EVMS system, is how we update the activity. Like we've completed 50%. So once we say that the activity is 50% complete, it will do the calculations at the back end. It will tell you that how much you've already earned and how much is remaining for that particular piece. So EVMS is basically the foundation, the building block for the Primavera.
Okay, perfect. So you use earned value management related to cost.
The cost, and also for the completion of work, completion of activity, resource, the activity type. But you don't see all those calculations. Everything happens at the back end. You'll just put in the information and you'll keep getting the data as you put in the information. But you don't see the calculation happening in front of you. This is something which happens at the back end.
Okay, perfect. So, yes, Sunil, thank you again very much for your time. I think that it's done with all the questions right now. I don't think that the audience have another question. If the audience that are hearing me right now, you can ask another question to Sunil. And if you don't have any question right now, perhaps you can write us to our email, and then we can ask this question to Sunil. He has a lot of experience in project management, in big projects. So I think that it's everything for today. Thank you again, Sunil, for your time. We really appreciate your time. We really appreciate that you have just provided this information to us. Thank you to all our audience that have been hearing this webinar. Gracias, Omar, también. No sé si tienes algo más por decir.
Bueno, en realidad muy agradecido con Swapnil. Gracias, Luis, por las preguntas que le has realizado a Swapnil. De verdad bastante interesante su su experiencia en proyectos de gran envergadura. En realidad, esas fotos que nos mostraron al inicio súper importantes, ¿no? Para entregarnos un poquito el contexto de que nos está hablando Swapnil y la experiencia que él tiene, definitivamente bastante importante, ¿no? Thank you very much, Swapnil. You're welcome.
My pleasure.
Well, por mi parte, en realidad, bastante contento con lo que se ha expuesto el día de hoy. No sé, Luis, si tú tienes algo por comentarnos.
No, eso es todo, creo. Thank you very much for all our audience. Have a great day today and see you in another webinar. Nos vemos en otro webinar. Entren a nuestras páginas, síganos en nuestras redes sociales, follow us in our social networks, and we will talk to you soon. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sonil, and thank you, Mar. Have a great day today.
Thank you for this opportunity, Luis. Thank you, Mar.
Bye.
I didn't understand a lot of Spanish that you said, but I hope you said some good things. Have a great day.
No,